Well, welcome everybody, and particularly welcome Jrumpinjinbah. Thanks so much for joining us. This is the first session in our Eldership Series where we're talking amongst ourselves about what eldership really is. But first and foremost, it's part of the gratitude series that SoulAdvisor is creating this particular month, our focus on gratitude. And so at the base of it, at its fundamental core, it's about giving respect and deep thanks to all that our elders in our community have brought us. And who better to ask to share eldership and what eldership is around these parts than Jrumpinjinbah, who's my beautiful elder, my own elder, lucky me, down here on your country. So I'm going to pass it over to Jrumpinjinbah just to welcome us all, first of all, and then we'll move on having a big old chat.
Thank you. Nangwali. I call it Nangwali, which is spiritual bird. It's the creation of this group when we birthed it properly, and it's about a spiritual bird on females belonging, how it hangs on to the creation of keeping everyone in contact together. First off, the reason why I'm sitting on an angle, because we're on a hill like that, and the ocean's right behind us where fresh water comes down and meets salt. Can you see it all there? And it goes out into the Jervis Bay region, into the Jervis Bay waters. First off, I'll just do a quick welcome in language. Well, not a quick welcome. I'll do a welcome in language, which I must do to pay respects for my mum's people on the eastern seaboard, and also my father's people from Omeo Bright right across to Jindabyne across the Great Australian Alps. And I just want to reiterate that where I'm sitting, it's where the fresh water comes down to meet the salt water, Gupper Gully, bubbly water dreaming. And if I keep talking and I don't stop, please, it's just who I am. I don't mean to, because the story's just continuating, and it never stops. And it's a story that's been passed down, as you probably understand. It's from the great-great-grandmothers and the grandmothers and the grandmothers and the grandmothers. So all the women are the key to holding the belonging of everything to land, language, and the men are there to make sure that we protect and look after. So without any further ado, I'll do a welcome in language, which is combined on the respect of my mum and her people, which is Wandi Wandiri and Marmarang Tomikan, and on my father's side, which is Yamathan Yaramatang Andragedi, through the Victorian side. Makutang Najang, Marmarang Tomikan, Wandi Wandiri and Kuminangala, Jrumpinjinbah, Andragedi, Yamathan, Yaramatang, Jilabino, and Chulaba. Ewan, Bewetaweti dreaming, fresh water coming down to meet salt, where Gupper Gully and all the freshwater crustaceans, saltwater crustaceans, all amalgamate together and join to travel through the oceans on the back of the whales, Gudinja, the dolphins, sharks, all the different anemones in the ocean that carry and join up all the song lines. It's a privilege to talk and pay the respects on sharing story, because no one really understands how important it is to carry the song lines of who you are and where you come from. It's always based on the left side of your arm, and the left side is where the heart is. And that's why I believe that the stories that have been told to me are from the elders and the grannies that make us who we are and how we adapt to today's society, and that everyone's equal and everyone belongs. No one's greater than anyone else, and we're just here as one representation of our past, our present, and our future that's coming. I'll let Cate come back in and do the rest, and then we'll start asking questions, and I'll intervene in telling story in the way that I've been taught and told, and I'll give a little bit of brief history on where I grew up and how it became about and where I went, and then why I'm here back in the place where I started. So thank you very much, and welcome to today's little journey that we're going to have, and I much appreciated that everyone's listening in. Thank you.
It's so wonderful to have you kick off this series, which is going to go for 12 days, a la 12 days of Christmas and all that. I think what is so important is that you're from around these parts, around from where the fresh water comes to the salt water, and the story of the crustaceans links to all other stories. So for me, Jrumpinjinbah is an elder in a lot of different ways, but just really basically, how many kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, what are we up to?
Well, I'm the youngest of 6 in my family, and my mum was a Christian lady, sang opera, played the piano, graduated at a very young age in the 40s. My dad couldn't read or write. He came from Victoria. His dad fought in the First World War, went over to Crete. He got his medals. I marched for him every year out of respect for him. Grandfather Jack McLeod, John McLeod, his name was. The reason why we carry the name McLeod is because we got a little bit of Scottish, Irish, Chinese, Sicilian, and Spanish blood that's married in, but I don't disrespect that. I respect all of that. And I got a story that will connect to that as well. But I have about 9 children. I've got about 10 sets of twins. All up, there's about, I don't know, probably 83 collectively. Big Christmas event. Some of them live in Western Australia, some down in Victoria, some up in Queensland, but they choose to live where they feel comfortable because they're raising their own children. They always stay in contact. I talk regularly to them, and I do a lot of work with youth on the streets and men, mainly men who are struggling to, provide and try and find answers. And I haven't got any answers for anyone. I just talk and I share story to make sure that they're comfortable and that they have someone to fall back on, like I did with my brothers. My 2 eldest brothers passed away, taught me a lot. I've traveled the world dancing. People around the world are all the same in my view. They just need someone to sit, have a yarn, and just share a cup of tea or drink of water or whatever. I don't do alcohol, don't do drugs, don't smoke cigarettes, eat chocolate, which is bad. But other than that, yeah, I enjoy my life. I'm 65 now. I got a lot to achieve yet. My mum passed away at 90. My dad died very young at 45, I think he was, and I was only 13 at the time. But I remember him well, and he was an avid world champion boxer, but he didn't go overseas. He fell in love with my mum and married her, and I'm the last of my father's clan. On his side, I mean, to take the traditional story through, and I did a lot of dancing up in the Australian Alps to open up the ski seasons and everything else. But I will do what I have to do to make sure that I can get our story out, because both sides of my clan back in the days, in the early 1800s, were really disrespected, nearly wiped out off the face of the earth. But I'm a survivor of those both sides, so I won't go into it too much, because where it is, it can stay where it is. But I'm here today, still a survivor of both of those clans on my mum and dad's side, and I'm here to share story to make sure that we all have a connection and that we can share in the respect of each other for the belonging of everyone into this country.
Which is so beautiful. And there's so many things to talk about right there that are principles, I guess, of eldership and what it is to be an elder in community. One is the fact, or the realization that, it's been pretty hard around here if you happen to have been native to these lands. But we've all been through some pretty full-on hardship through our lineages too. Humans haven't been very nice to humans. You know, sure, there's been a few ice ages and stuff like that were pretty difficult too. But, you know, I think most of the trouble has come from humans and been inflicted upon humans, by humans, to humans. So how do we get over that? And I guess all of us last night, when we gathered together as a group of elders in our community, started to talk about our privileged role in bringing about healing and being exposed to healing ourselves. So, you know, that's, as you can hear, quite a bit of responsibility in Jrumpinjinbah's eldership, with 83 children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. And that would be enough for most humans, right? But the thing about being an elder is that you feel that responsibility acutely. And so Jrumpinjinbah started to tell you what he does, but he's on every board around these parts. Every single board.
Yeah. I represent the community as one representative on the new hospital structure, and that's getting a refurbish of a 7-story building, which I explained to the architects and to the construction companies, and the guy that runs the hospital in Nowra, his name is Craig Harmer, and he's a really good friend of mine. He helped us establish the first Aboriginal retirement village of 22 residents that is built up in Uluru Road, North Nowra, the Buttawangs, the walk to go to the Buttawangs up the mountains at Kangaroo Valley. And there's a lot of cultural stories there. And the village was named after an elder named Auntie Rose Mumbler, who was very well respected in our region, and her sons, Uncle Frank and Uncle Percy Mumbler, and very, very well respected by all. Had a lot to do with different language all up and down the East Coast. Gave a lot of insight into, you know, what the areas were about, and how people would gather from the mountains to the oceans, and how the people came together when they married in, and when they were welcomed in, you had to sit beside the waterways before the elders would come and take you into that area. You could sit there for 3 days, or you could sit there for 3 months. But it was a belonging that when you were invited into their region, you could go in there and then you could be a part of that community. There was always a respect value of belonging, that no one disrespected anyone's area, because it had a consequence that put shame on your community, or on your group of people where you came from. And there are song lines that go all the way from Victoria right up to the Daintree, over to Darwin there, up into the Larrakia mob and everywhere else. But all these stories, they all interlock, and they all have one view of respect, that the belonging of creation is through whatever name they call it in their region. We talk about a lot of interesting positioning where Australia had 7 places. It was Tasmania, Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia, Northern Territory, Queensland, and New South Wales. And when you joined all those places into the centre over Uluru, we believe that Uluru is the creation of everything that's evolved on the face of the mother on the earth. And in saying that, I am one of those young people that respect that story, because when you look at it, you look up into the astronomy and up into the stars, and there's a story up there about the 7 sister dreaming. So it's ironic how 7 places based around the 7 sister dreaming from First Nations people, that we believe that we come from the land, there we shall return. We were born here. We don't come from anywhere else, but we've travelled and we've walked the country before the great floods, where they've been inscribed in text in the Bible, in other different areas of people's belief, where they talk about this is our story. Everyone's story is right, no one's wrong. And the most beautiful thing is that when you have respect of other people's story, then you can respect yourself of who you are and where you come from. So if our people walked and walked and walked and walked for 20, 30, 60, 80, 100,000 years, when the land was all joined, and then the great floods came, which are recorded in a holy book called the Bible, that the ark was built and they traveled by two in all different areas to make sure that the connection of people were still connected. That was the story that was created in that era. And that was way, way after a lot of our recordings through archaeological finds, recordings, carbon data, and a lot of other things that were put together give a background on First Nations people here in this country that date back long before anyone can even just put a smidgen on it, because it upsets the hypothesis of a different people, the way they find out from their story. With no disrespect to anybody, I ask a lot of people, where do you come from? And they say, oh, we're born in this country, we're born in that country. And I say, fine, but where do you come from? And they say, well, we're this nationality. And I said, yeah, I know that. Who was first on the planet? How was you created? Oh, well, we come from Homo sapien or Neanderthal or the apes or whatever, and I say, well, it's interesting. I say, so my grandmothers and their grandmothers and their grandmothers come from their grandmothers. They don't come from any Homo sapien, any ape, any other thing. It's someone's story that they've done a study to say this is how it was, which is their story, which we respect. But I can't believe that my grandparents or the great first sunrise grandparents come from apes. They were created by the belonging of the dream time. It's like when you're born, after 9 months, you get smacked, breathe out and see a bright light. After being encompassed in the womb of creation in water, Gupper Gully, where you're born, you cry, and then in your journey in life, you understand about everything that you see, touch, hear, smell, eat. And then after your journey in flesh language no longer exists, you get smacked, breathe out and see a bright light when they try to revive you. But you go back to where you came from. It's like every single one of us. We're all here for a reason. And whatever the reason is, each of us know, if we understand and respect who our grannies were before us and why we're here to carry that story through, to make sure that the generations after, and our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, whoever they marry, will have the same understanding and respect about how it's all connected through belonging. I know I go off in tandems and talk about 5 different aspects of one story, but I do that not out of disrespect. It's trying to collate the story in a circle where I spoke earlier about the 7 states. I don't worry about ACT because it came later when the governing bodies wanted to create a house, what they own, with 4 walls to say this is how we operate. Good on them. They're trying, but we need to have a lot of different ways on how we present. And I believe this way we're doing it now is that each individual that's here listening, understanding and respecting has a voice to say how they feel and to share who they are, where they come from. Look, I can stand here or sit here and talk till the crows come home. And that's what Jrumpinjinbah means, crow medicine. It's cleaning up all the dead language and all the negativity around the place. And whenever you see a crow, you'll think of me now because I've mentioned it. And you'll say, Paul, why did you tell us that on that day? And there's a bird right here in the tree behind us just sitting and watching. But that's a beautiful parrot with many colours, so that represents all different people sitting and listening. So I will shush for a moment until Cate asks me another question. But if I get too endorsed in speaking, please pull me up because I don't know when to stop.
The thing about it is that, for me anyway, this is what an elder is, you know.
But I'm not an elder.
Yes,
I've got Aboriginal ancestry that's still alive who's older than me. So I haven't reached that pinnacle yet. So I'm happy to be 65. If I reach 85, I'll be most happy. 105. My great-great-grandmother was 114 when she passed away down here on the East Coast, Granny Kumi Nangala, and my great-great-grandmother on my dad's side was 109 when she passed away up in the Alps. So I've got a bit of a chance.
You have a bit of a chance. And our beautiful friend Jo Doyle, who's joined us, lost her granny just a week and a bit ago. And her granny was 105 too.
Wow.
So, you know.
My culture respects, Joe, to your granny.
Yeah. Amazing innings.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like as you speak, you're bringing through a whole lot of knowledge or ways of being that are your storyline and coming through your elders, be they not only Aboriginal, but also Sicilian, was it?
All different nationalities, yeah.
Etc., etc. But at the base and the common point of it, we're all human. And one of the things that Jrumpinjinbah is bringing in his role as elder, I'm going to call you elder, even if you don't.
What can I say?
What can you say? One of the things that Jrumpinjinbah is bringing to us is something called, well, both Jrumpinjinbah and also another community member, Kurt Malley, who's Torres Strait Island, are bringing to us is something called Go Barefoot on Belonging Day. So that's about on the 26th of January, when rather than say you're from this tribe and I'm from that, and rather than celebrating on one side and mourning the loss of country on the other side, we come together instead and understand that, you know, it's a long journey of humanity and that we're all part of humanity. So that wisdom, that passing on of wisdom and simple messaging that everybody can understand their position and move on through time is, I guess, what I see as eldership. But I'm interested in how, you know, if you had to say what eldership was in community, in Aboriginal community, what would you say?
Interesting question. I suppose that that question revolves all around in every community, no matter if you're Aboriginal or not. As I can see, a lot of people in the live talk got a few years on me. I'm not, you know, trying to overcome, but, you know, Merv, I spoke to you before, I think, did I? Yes or no?
Before when?
Did me and you have a yarn on this talk back before?
Not yet. Not yet.
Oh, you look like someone I was talking to before. I'm
There's
sorry.
lots of good looking men out there. I'm just
I know, I understand that. And did I talk to you before, Martine?
No, I don't think so. I would.
Yeah. No. I meet many people worldwide, and I just treat everyone the same, you know. But what I was going to say to the people that listening to what I talk about, if you've got anything that you'd like to ask me while we're having an interaction and sharing, please ask me, because I don't really know anything. I know nothing really, but I get all my information and sharing from all my old great grannies who walk with me 24/7 and guide me. And when I see someone, I talk because their grandmothers are talking to my grandmothers to bring the conversation to, you know, a starting point. So whatever someone asks me, if I can answer, I will. But if I can't, I will say I can't answer. But I'll give my version of a story that will connect us one way or another.
Mm. So, I don't know if anybody else is bursting with a question. Otherwise, I'll just keep asking. Yep. Martine.
Sorry. Because you know so many amazing stories from your ancestors, what do you think the world needs right now as the most powerful story to move through this challenge we're moving through right now? What will be a story that you think is important to share?
I would say, sorry.
Oh, good. That was just.
Oh, I would say, from my perspective, traveling and view, is that when people meet people, they have a different perspective and they don't assume. I like sharing a story that talks about the trees, and all trees worldwide are different. They do one principle: they breastfeed oxygen to every living thing, and every living thing gives back carbon dioxide. The animals, you know, the whales, the dolphins in the ocean breathe out. Everyone gives back to the land, and the land keeps feeding oxygen till we go to our resting place when we finish our journey in flesh. I would say, from my perspective, the only way that the world needs to come together is to have a belonging of respect for each people in their own region. They don't own anything, because even if you're the wealthiest person in the world, you come in and you go out the same way. You don't own anything. And if you have too much to own, you leave a logistic nightmare for all the people around you that will argue who gets it all, which I believe is not right. So our people used to walk, hunt, gather, and in that, when we were walking, I was telling the story earlier, the old grannies were getting too old to walk. So the leaders of the group would say to the young people who were carrying babies with their partners, stay. Them old grannies will look after you, and we will look for better country, and we will come back. So in saying that, they would then keep walking, and then those mothers would give birth. The old grannies would get the warm ash from the fire, rub the mucus off the newborn baby, go like that, it'd fall to the ground. That child, when it grew up, would know exactly where it was birthed and how to have that respect for that land there, to go back to make sure that it was cared for. I ain't got the answer for the whole world, because everybody's got to make a decision. But I would say that, in my view, that the only way I could see the whole world pulling together as one united group of people would to have a respect of belonging for each area, to make sure that the world is not starving, and to look after the environment, to make sure that it replenishes itself and keeps moving and keeps moving. The mother, the land, will take after itself regardless. It will cause catastrophic events. We're in a 70-year cycle at the moment, which is based around the Seven Sister Dreaming, which I've been told about by a few different communities Australia-wide. And I shared my story to a couple of traditional elders up in Larrakia, up in Northern Territory, down in South Australia, in Nunkering Mob, in different areas down there, Nunganjira people, and they say, you have the same story as us, but you explain it in a different way. And I say to them, yes, uncle or auntie or bidja, or because there's different names for elders. I say we all carry the one belonging of respect. If we lose that respect, we don't then care about the land, we don't care about people, and we don't care about who's with us, like I go out, even though I've got a lot of children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, I give out gifts of toys, food, help people on the street. If I see someone sitting on the gutter, I walk up and say, "You all right? Do you need a hand?" They say, "I need some money." I'll say, "Well, come on in, I'll buy you feed." I know they want it for grog or drugs, and I'll say, "I've got no money for grog or drugs, it's in plastic." So I will buy them a feed. If I see an elder struggling, I don't care what nationality they are, I will say, "Do you want me to help you push that trolley? Do you want a hand across the road? Are you all right? It's raining, you might fall over. Can I help you to the car?" They look at me very, "Oh, do we trust this person?" And I say, "It's up to you. I will walk away. I will not stand. I will go." And they say, no, it's all right. And then we have a conversation like we're having now. So I make the first move. But I believe that if we don't try to establish some sort of connection through respect, through belonging, through sharing, then what else do we do? What else do we do? Is it about control? Worldwide, why do people want to control other people's belonging or area where they live when they don't know nothing about them? It's a hard question, but that's the only way I can answer that.
If we look at what's happened throughout the world in terms of the colonial difficulties and the enslavement for over 3,000 years of each other and every other misdemeanor that humans have perpetrated against other humans, then the way back, I think, is around, as you're saying, eldership, respect, which takes its form in eldership. Because if I don't know how to respect my elders and I don't give them somewhere to tell their story, then I don't have a place in the world, because who am I then, And it's a very anxiety-provoking world right now with kids and young people, and even us, trying to make our own stories because we've lost the stories that have come down. And, it's a crying shame. A lot of people have arrived in this country, Australia, not having the foggiest about where they've been or what brought them here, or all of the incredible sacrifices that have been made to bring us to this point in this blessed, beautiful land, So I guess, and that's definitely true for me, and I don't know how many other people who are listening in that might be true for too. I have smatterings, a little bit of this, a little bit of Austria, a little bit of Denmark, a little bit of England, but it's not enough to sustain me. And my sustenance now, anyway, comes from these beautiful skies, beach, ocean, etc., but interpreted through the eyes of eldership, i.e. Jrumpinjinbah, and others in community who have that deep connection and deep understanding about how we as human beings can relate to the ultimate elder, which is the planet. That for me, that's where it comes to.
Oh, can I just add to that quickly?
Not quickly, but you can add.
Sorry. When I was born on the veranda of Berry Hospital, because our families weren't allowed to have children in hospitals, and we never had voting rights till 1967. So when I was born in the 50s, 57, 58, I wasn't even a citizen, but I was born. So in saying that, I grew up in a tin shack, dirt floor, no electricity, no water, best time of my life. And I can remember this traditional full-blood lady, Auntie Rose Mumbler, Granny Gunang Mumbler. She used to smoke a little pipe, and she had all these little dogs around like chihuahuas. And she was blind, and she was about 103 at the time. And she used to smoke a pipe, and she'd sniff, and she'd say, "Paul, that's you." And I used to cry. My elder sister used to say, "It's all right, it's only Nanny Rosie Mumbler." And then she'd say, "It's all right, I can smell you because you got that soap on you." I used to have a bath in a tin tub when I was a baby. But from there, I moved up to Sydney, and I grew up amongst all different nationalities. in a place called Liverpool, Green Valley. And it was very hard, but I made it. And my dad, being very dark, had a lot of racism against him. And I made football my catalyst to try and achieve, and boxing. And he showed me, and I won titles. And I got picked to play for Australia when I was 15 in a junior side. But the only reason why I got picked is because all my friends who were not Aboriginal were different nationalities. When we had trial matches out at Penrith, I came on as a reserve and scored tries and set up tries, and they took me off. And then when we got elected, I never got elected, and all my friends said, we're not going because Paul should be in the side. And then the teacher at the time said, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. But when I went home and told Dad, he said to me, he said, it's your choice, it's your call. You know what happened. People will not change unless change is brought about. And from that time, when I was 15 to now, I've always thought about that. And I ended up getting picked, but I declined to go. So I did it on the basis of, yous will still win without me. So, because they were all my brothers, all the guys in the team, there's all different nationalities. I did a workshop once in Nowra, and it was about dads aware, dads who care. And I put in for a grant. I got a grant of funds. I had guys from jail. I had guys from different areas in Canberra, North Coast, all around. There was about 100, nearly 300 men came there. And they walked in, and I had police there giving talks on domestic violence, child sexual assault, and the bashing of women. And also I had different Aboriginal men come in and tell their story, and non-Aboriginal men tell their story. But a few of the group came in and they said, why are all these different white fellas, gubbars they call them, in here, and why all these other mob here? And I said, you're using very derogative language. It's my workshop. If you want to stay, you can. If you don't, there's the door. And I said, did you read what the workshop's about? And they said, yeah, it's about black fellas and babies. I said, no, it ain't. I said, it's about the fathers of Aboriginal children, not the children of Aboriginal fathers. And I said, it could be any nationality. Anyone who has an Aboriginal child needs to understand that this is how Aboriginal people work in a collective to raise children, and you're a part of it. And when they found out about that, they said, we didn't understand, because the acronym I used for the workshop was HELL 2013. And people couldn't understand until they come to the workshop and read the small print. It standard for healing, empowerment, leadership, and law, LORE, Aboriginal style, to make sure that any child that was a replica of Aboriginal descendant who had a different nationality parent, their parent would understand exactly how our people deliver that deliverance of raising children in their way. So there's all these different stories, how you can talk, how you can share, how you can do stuff, and how everyone belongs. There's no right way or wrong way. We must try, and we must try to deliver in the best way possible to make sure that everyone has a say. That's the only way I can see it. I love people coming to dance, to corroborate, to get up. I get everyone involved. I'm going to Dubai on the 14th of this month. I don't really want to go, but I'm going over to represent Aboriginal people with my sons, a couple of grandsons and a few nephews, to dance for the World Boxing Fraternity. So I'm going to go and do that. But I haven't been to Dubai. I've been everywhere else, traveling the world for 40 years. But, you know, like Joan Fonda's a good friend of mine, but Joan Fonda is just a person like all of us. I've met her in New York. I met Clint Eastwood in Miami. I met Whoopi Goldberg. but they're just people. We're all people. We're all a part of the connection of belonging. No one owns anything. So that's my focus on how I see and how I deliver. Sorry for going off the track again, but that's the only way I can explain it when I talk, you know. So
We've talked yesterday, haven't we, about eldership and the fact that there is no track. So, you know, it's about having a story, and each of us is going to probably relate to something different that you've said. And I guess that's also eldership, isn't it? It's not like somebody giving you the recipe for how to grow up or giving you the exact aspects of culture. It's about living it. And then for all of us to pay attention and to listen deeply. So that's really what real eldership is, I think.
Sorry.
I was going to say that in my way of thinking or experiencing, it feels to me that eldership can be quite tiring. You know, it's a lot of responsibility. And in this country, there's a lot of growing up that needs to happen. And it feels very much that all my Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander friends have to shoulder an incredible burden of eldership in this country, because they're trying to translate how to appropriately be in this country, and they're swamped. I don't know what you think, but it seems to me that everybody I know in community is super busy, even at a young age, trying to hold that eldership that is being asked of them by the rest of us.
Look, it happens everywhere. I've raised nieces and nephews from when I was 10. My sisters had to work. They had no money, so they'd go from Liverpool into Redfern to work in a place called Allen Sweets, making lollies. That was the only source of income. When I was a baby growing up, I used to be looked after in a bean paddock, where Mum used to go bean picking, and they'd sing Christian hymns in the paddock. I could still hear it. That's the only way we could survive. And when they'd go fishing in the boat, you know, out at Wreck Bay, they'd get fish and share it and swap for the vegetables and, you know, things like that. So it was like bartering. I've got this, what have you got? And then they shared. No one owned anything. It's very hard to try and get an understanding where everyone's on the same page. Hardship, everyone trying to survive, it's really devastating, because when you've grown up, you know, and you've always had food in your mouth, and then suddenly COVID and all the other astronomical little sicknesses come into effect, and then everyone sort of, oh, we've got nothing. We can't go to work. We can't do this. And they're at wit's end, and they're really dynamically down to their last. What are they going to do? This is where friendship comes in. Are you right? Do you need anything? You got enough food for the kids? It's about sharing and understanding people. Yes.
So you mentioned early on about song lines. Could you talk more about song lines, and also in the debate conversation about the voice that's going on to Parliament at the moment? They talk about truth telling. I'm not sure what truth telling even is. Do you want to just sort of clarify for someone like myself those 2 points, please?
Yes, I will. And I'm glad you brought that up, because Auntie Patricia, the old girl who instigated with the young lady, I went and had a meeting with him in Canberra. And I lived in Uluru for 9 years out of Mutijulu, working in health. And I knew all the mob out there. So I was pretty well connected. And what a lot of people don't understand, from how I've been told about the Uluru Statement, because I didn't make it out to the main event, and everyone was asking where I was, because my community went, and we had a couple of nephews, one nephew in there, and he had the same name, McLeod, and they said, where's Bobby Mac, Paul? Oh, he couldn't make it, but I had other business on, so I couldn't make it because I couldn't afford me way out there. But anyways, we won't go into that story. What it is that them old people out there, the elders, they were sharing about their belonging, about how they look after country, how they want the rest of the mobs or the communities or the Aboriginal groups around Australia that connect through them songlines that understand how they've been through what they've been through. And they just said the only way that we're going to adapt and to have a voice where we speak from who we are in our community, then they might listen to what we're saying. Some of our people have taken it the wrong way and they said, oh, well, this is not right and that's not right, because the people who were saying that have not lived in the same situation as our people in those communities. I know for a fact that they wasn't trying to take anything away from any Aboriginal community. They just wanted them to be on a united front as one voice, one stand, one community, which is Yuragrang Najang Nala, the land here where we walk on, is that all our people come from here. We got all these different groups that all have their different belonging and understanding, but it was about everyone speaking on their own behalf to put something in to make sure that they had a voice in Parliament. It was taken the wrong way. It was put around the wrong way. And if anybody who sees this video that I'm talking about, please come and ask me and I'll have a proper conversation with you. I will talk to anybody. I was on the lawns of Parliament House in the days of land rights with my brother, my uncle, and all the others. I was only a young fellow, about 16, but I was there in them days. I've been through the downside. I've been through where we do need a voice. And if our people don't understand, or the wider community planting all these different obstacles in the way to say, oh, well, these people don't agree with that, they don't agree with that, they're not speaking on my behalf. Come and ask me how I feel about what the voice is. No one will talk to me because I only speak from belonging, truth, and who we are. All those people who have Aboriginal children, who are different nationalities, they need their children to understand who they are, where they come from. It's like those children who have a different parent from a different area in the world. They need to understand about that way of life. It's the same thing. You need to understand, in the way I see it, that all people around the world got to unite as one and not be separated. That's the only way I could answer that, Merv.
Yeah. So the truth telling is about people coming with their own stories and sharing together so that we all realize we've been somewhere which wasn't great.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that, they had a construction called ATSIC, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Commission, which people were elected but not voted in by their people from their region. And they were making all these decisions, which politics plays a part in any community. I don't care if you're Aboriginal, if you're Taiwanese, if you're, from Denmark or Poland or wherever, but there's always politics that will rule and govern. If, for instance, we don't get to the crux of the matter, which is the important part of everyone belonging, you have this separation and divide. I run for a party in Nowra that I didn't get voted in because it was only a two-party preferred government, Labor or Liberal. I won hands down, but I gave all my votes to the Labor Party because Labor is the only voice for Aboriginal Australia. But my uncle, who's a preacher, he was a Liberal, but that's his choice, and he's still alive today, and he's 80 years of age. I respect him dearly, but he don't vote no more, and he don't believe in any party. In saying that, politics is a place where it divides, rules and conquers on the power, how I see it, of manipulation on the overall. if we are a community of people in Australia that belong and join, then we'd have no separation. I could say, all right, you mob, come down, we'll have a big gathering, go and do corroboree, and we'll get a feed, and we'll just share story. You'd go home. It's like if I said to you, Merv, you know when you go for a walk on the beach or you walk in the bush and you see a beautiful scenery, you've done that? Can you hear me?
He can hear you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sure.
Right. So have you ever, you know, when you're in awe and you see that beautiful scenery and you go, oh man, that is just breathtaking, right? Next time you see that, anyone in this audience, next time you see that, close your eyes, picture the scenery in your mind with your old grannies walking beside you in your belonging of who you are, and then become the scenery looking at yourself sitting or standing or walking. You'll understand it in a different belonging then of how you see that view. But no one takes that view because they're all walking like that. You know, we're not looking, and we're not looking back. We're not looking at who we are. That's the only way I see it. But if we can bridge together, and men have men's business on the right, women have women's business on the left, and in the middle, the children play and swim. That's the story about Guppu Gully, bubbly water from fresh coming down to meet salt. And the song lines that you were talking about was where the crustaceans meet up from fresh water to salt water and mix in and jump on the back of whales, dolphins, sharks, and they're little things that big, and they sit there. Those creatures or those animals or those micropods, they travel all around the world and see the whales. I'll get you all to close your eyes for 1 minute and I'll show you something. And just put yourself into this beautiful space, right, of where you're with this whale in the water. And this song, you might have heard it, you may not have, but it gives a belonging and a blessing of how everything is connected and how it moves through the ocean. And this song is about Guttinja, the whales, right? And it goes like this. Garden in Nyami, Jutu Mupirunu, Baya Mangarana, Jutu Mupirunu, Garden in Nyami, Jutu Mupirunu. Garden in Nyami, Jutu Mupirunu, Baya Mangarana. Baya Mangarana, Juju Mopiro. Garden in the Yami, Juju Mopiro. Makutang na diyang, marmarang kami kan maniwandi yung kuminangala. Androgeti Yemas and Yeramatang, Chilabino. Makutang Najang, Makutang Najang, Makutang Najang. That song is about movement in the ocean, and the song lines that are connecting are the song lines of all the old people connecting back up from your ancestral belonging to everyone's ancestral belonging to that fresh water meeting salt, because that water, even when you go down the beach and you feel like you're really not with it on the day and you got to have a rest, just put your feet in the water, and when the water comes up, hits your feet, goes back out. It takes all your sickness and your dead language, I call it, which you had a terrible day, but it just cleanses you and washes you. When you walk in the rain, that's a cleansing, a blessing, a washing, Lord. When you see a river, go beside the river, dig a little hole, and the water will come through up underneath. Wash yourself. Sit there near a fire. Have a warm, and then close your eyes and just respect that. That's you. You're a part of that. You, like where you come from, the land, you shall return, whether you're cremated or buried or what. You will go back and become a part of these trees that are blowing. We got the trees here blowing, and they're thanking for what we're talking about and what we're saying. That's what I believe. And when that wind blows, it's bringing songline back, like language never diminishes. Sound is just traveling non-stop. So something that was spoke at the beginning of time is still moving. Still moving. When you're born, it takes 9 months. And when you pass over, it takes the number 6, which is death. And when you join them two numbers together, it gives you the number 8, which are eyes, which is infinity, which are made up of 3s. You were, you are, you always will be Merv, and you always were, you always are, and you always will be Merv. And that's how it goes. That's how I see it. I love numerology, science, culture, how it's all mixed, but it all comes back to the one presentation of who you are and what do we give and how we receive it. And see that left arm? About all them old grannies. The heart there. They walk with us every day. Your name was already there before you was born, and it'll be there after you're gone. You will always be remembered and never forgotten. Same with all our old grannies. Even though we don't know their name, they're in our bloodline, they're in our DNA, they're who we are. We all come from the one place, from the mother, the land, and there we shall return. That's how I see it.
That's just the most beautiful summation of what it is to be an elder. Hey, in the flesh. And what I love about the way that you are, that who you are, is that continual sharing of information to bring us all through, to get us all through, to give us something that we can hold dear and know and move forward. And over the next 12 days, we'll have hear other people's stories. Yours, Merv, yours, Martine, and a whole lot of other people besides. And I'm so looking forward to hearing those stories too. And delighted and thrilled that we started here with connection to country, connection to culture, and connection and deep understanding of what community actually is. It's a beautiful thing. We'll have to finish there because it's an hour, but I'm wondering.
Or is it? There's no time frame in blackfella language. You're never early or you're never late. It just is. Ain't that right? And if I may say, I am going to listen to you talk because as far as I'm concerned, everyone who listens in, to me, they're family.
Yeah.
So you're family to me.
And we talked about bringing us all together and having dinner, all of us elders who are going to be on this eldership series. But you were invited too, Adriana, Joe, Tanya, as well. Hopefully we'll do it in Cambodia. That's the intention.
Never been there.
We'll
Been everywhere else but there.
But well, if it's not there, it'll be elsewhere. Anyway, look, thank you so much.
Too short, wasn't it? It was too short a time.
Yeah.
No, but you can't really have a good yarn and a conversation because
always like that. But you know what? It's the beginning.
Well, I want to do one thing before we go, if everyone don't mind. I just want to pay my respects to each and everyone's great grandparents, especially their grannies. And Yugarang Najang Ngala means blessings through the mother, through the land, in language that's joined together by Marmarang, Tomika, Waniwandiri, and Kuminangala on the eastern seaboard, and Yamaton, Yaramatang, Andrageti through the language of Gilabino and Grandfather Jack Chulaba on the Australian Alps side, and all my other great-great-grannies that came from them and them and them. And I really had a lovely day because the sun's shining. Yesterday, it was hail, horrific, but just be ready because the 70-year cycle has gone around and there's catastrophic fires coming again. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm totally wrong.
Yeah.
But I love yous all, and I'm looking forward to catching up with yous again.
Thank you, everybody, for making the time to be with us.
Yeah.
And here in this beach and sky and with all this bird song. Gorgeous, eh?
Mm.
The creek. This is Moona Creek where I used to come when I was a little one prawning, actually, when the moon was dark.
I remember when Cate used to live on the island at Bawetaweti Dreaming, Bowen Island, they call it. There's a lot of story there about that place. I used to love going over there singing and playing clapping sticks and doing dancing on there. I was only about 7, I think. Yeah.
Well, bless you all, and happy, what day of the week are we even?
Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. And tomorrow we'll have a lovely woman, Nancy Parker, coming on to talk about shell essences and her incredible journey through all that. And talking about mollusks and their attachment and their moving around the world and bringing us back. She works with shell essences to bring us all back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she'll be on tomorrow. So bless you all and hope to see you tomorrow. And
Thank
you
you
so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm going to listen to you both talk. Yeah. No, honestly.
Take care.
See you later.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.